Coming to you from the Yard Dawgs Podcast studio. A show for the fans, by the fans. Talking all things Cleveland Browns. From our mic to your ears. With your hosts, Jason Hand, Mikey P, and Ian Cold Train Coldiron.
Are you ready for some football?
We're ready for some football, baby.
Yes, good evening, everybody. You are now in the yard. Welcome to the Yard Dawgs Podcast, a show for the fans, by the fans. This is Season 3, Episode 112. I'm your host, Jason Hand. The Yard Dawgs Podcast is brought to you by Network 216. To check out all of our Ohio sports content, subscribe to our Network 216 YouTube channel. What's going on, buddy? Joining me tonight, right next to me, the one and only Ian Cold Train Cold Iron. What's happening?
What's going on, man? I love the intro. I was going to tell you before the show, but I'll tell you now. It feels like when Mikey actually went to the training camp, he couldn't make it. It feels like the first time we met, actually.
Yeah,
it's on this show,
it's weird.
Yeah, it's just us two, so it's going to be the same vibe. But what are we here? About 4 or 5 months later. It's probably 6 months later total. And here we are, us two again. So yeah, I hope Mikey's okay. I know he's got some work stuff he had to take care of.
Yeah,
we're thinking of you, Mike. You're here in spirit, buddy. We got your picks, so we love you. And,
we got his picks. We got his picks. We'll talk about that. We got a bone to pick with Mikey P later on in the episode. That's for sure, and we'll get into all that at the end of the episode. But yeah, welcome, Cold Train. The first time we met was obviously you're just a guest on the Yard Dawgs Podcast, and Mikey wasn't here that night. Then he had the Browns backers combine, and he was on his way back from Cleveland, had a bad connection, so he couldn't join us then. And then tonight, Mikey P's got some first of the year business to take care of at his day job, so he couldn't join us tonight. He wanted to be here, but he just had some pressing items to attend to. So, but it's good to see you, buddy.
Yep, yes, sir. It's good to see you, man.
Well, let's get into some housekeeping. Obviously, the Yard Dawgs Podcast and Network 216, we are proud partners with Homage, the apparel company. You can see the logo there. It's right there, logo for Homage, the apparel company. Dude, their apparel, their sports gear is, I'm not even going to read it from the notes, man. The sports gear is fantastic. They have the NFL, they have MLB, they have NHL, they have NCAA. They had a holiday collection. Like, whatever you want from Homage, like if you're a sports fan, go to that site. I'm wearing a Homage sweatshirt right now, a hoodie. I'm a huge fan of hoodies. It's just so doggone comfortable. Cold Train, I know you just got a shipment of hoodies in. You got your t-shirts.
I'm actually representing the WWE. People didn't know that. Homage is a huge WWE following and fan following. I figured as the season was over, I might as well rock out the Shawn Michaels. Can't go wrong with Heartbreak Kid. But I'm with you, Jason. You said a couple weeks ago, I will vouch for you. I finally got my Browns hoodie in with the elf on it. You were right. It is one of the most comfortable hoodies you'll ever wear. It's right up there with Nike. I mainly wear Nike sweatsuits because I love the comfiness of it. Homage is definitely right up there with Nike. I don't know what it is, but when you throw it on, all you want to do is grab a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate, go on your couch and just get comfy and watch playoff Sunday. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It is as comfy as Jason talks about and what we talk about on this show every week. And, it's very much quality. I think I have now 10 to 15 shirts and about 2-3 different hoodies. So I'm stacking up the Homage, man. Keep going. I got to keep going.
Yes. You know what it is about hoodies, man? It's like the older you get in today's society, like 15 years ago, I carried my wallet and my keys. That was it. I clipped my pager, on my belt. But now, man, you have your cell phone, you have your keys, you have your wallet, you have pocket knife. Like, you have some stuff in your pockets. And hoodies, man, you got an extra. I feel like a kangaroo, dude. But I love it. I put my cell phone in there, and it's cold outside, so you got the hood. And I don't know, Homage just makes a great hoodie. I love it. So, and I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor, even though I am, but I'm not. I was a customer long before they're a sponsor, and I'm proud that we're partnered up with Homage. So if you want to check out Homage and all their cool gear, it doesn't break your leg either. I mean, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to buy this stuff. It's super on the cheap. Check out our link on our website, Look, I'm old. I say W. You don't need to put it in www anymore, do you? No, you don't. That's network216ohio.com. Just check out our website. It also has all of our shows on there. Like if you want to check out all the shows that Network 216 has going on, go to our website. You can see that. You can also shop for Homage through our link on our website. If you're not a website guy, but you do like Twitter, you can go to Yard Dawgs Pod. That's our Twitter handle, Yard Dawgs Pod, and our Twitter link is on there as well. So check them out. Every time you do, it'll definitely help the show and the network. Well, Coltrane, we got some comments rolling in. One of them's from Jeff W. What's going on, Jeff? Welcome back to the show. He says, bye-bye, Joe Woods.
Yes, sir.
We're definitely going to talk about that. Yeah, that was the first thing that happened, right, for the Browns offseason is defensive coordinator Joe Woods is out the door, and they're searching for a new defensive coordinator now. So that was good. Also, some good news that we heard out of the NFL. We covered this last week. Of course, we do our show every Tuesday night. Well, Monday night was a very unfortunate event for the Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals game. Damar Hamlin, of course, we all know what happened, but we have some good news. He's breathing on his own. He's not only that, but he's out of the hospital in Cincinnati, and they transferred him to Buffalo. He's not at home yet, but he is at a local hospital in his home in Buffalo. So I thought that was just fantastic news. And of course, we saw the message all across the league on Sunday, on all the Sunday games and Saturday games, with just support for Damar Hamlin. Everybody's heard of him at this point. My wife was keeping up with his health. My daughters were asking me questions about it. So just some tremendous news that we got from there.
Yes, sir. It was very good news to hear that. What I found funny, I guess, when all the dust settled was, Cincinnati Bengals fans and the team and all that, they were huge supporters of Hamlin and all that. And then unfortunately what happens is sometimes people rear their ugly head. All I saw on Twitter once those rules started coming down with the coin flip and all that, man, you got Bengals fans complaining all over Twitter about that situation, man. I mean, it's like, look, I mean, at the end of the day, the guy collapsed, the game was canceled, but you can't complain after the fact. I mean, it's just a lot of situations or a lot of negative comments from the Bengals fans. And it's like, look, man, I'm just happy that Hamlin's fine. Like at the end of the day, we all knew there was going to be some type of stipulation they were going to have to change or the playoffs were going to be affected. We all knew that going in, but I will say that about the Bengals fan base, I have seen a lot of negative flack coming from them. And shame on them, man. I mean, at the end of the day, none of that should matter. If you beat the team that's in front of you, there really shouldn't be much to complain about. But, yeah, I did want to mention that on the show. I was surprised and shocked at seeing that kind of comments on Twitter.
There's always one in every crowd, right? But we did see a lot of tremendous support, for Damar Hamlin, and he's on social media, he's active on Twitter, and he was sending messages throughout the weekend, just letting everybody know that he was all right. His DMs are open. I sent him a DM. I didn't hear anything back from him yet, but hopefully he saw it, and I'm sure that he got flooded with DM messages.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just people are thankful, man, because to see something like that happen and. Automatically you think the worst, it just wasn't a good situation. And for him to pull out of it, not only pull out of it, but wake up from the induced coma, breathing on his own, his family's around him, it's just a good end story. And his story's not over yet. And his charity that he was raising money for, Toys for the Kids, he had a $2,500 goal, and I think that surpassed well over $7 million. So that was fantastic to see as well.
Yep.
So that was good. Coltrane, you'd mentioned this before the show, and we're going to mention this too because he played for the Cleveland Browns. I like the guy a lot. Like when he played here, the White Rhino, Peyton Hillis. We heard over the weekend that he was in the hospital in critical condition. I guess his kids were swimming in the ocean and got in trouble, drowning, I guess, and he jumped in to save them. Well, he ended up in the hospital. There's really not too much information that I saw beyond that, but definitely keep him in your thoughts and prayers as well.
Yeah, the only update I saw, or at least just the story, was I guess there was sand, sand got in his lungs, and that's what's been holding back the progress. And unfortunately, compared to Hamlin's story, I have not seen a positive update yet. But I mean, I keep hearing that basically he was being helped to breathe. So maybe very similar to the Hamlin situation, actually, but just completely different, where he was, drowning trying to save his kids. But yeah, I mean, prayers go up. I mean, honestly, it does worry me a little bit that I haven't seen a positive update on that story yet. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and keep praying for him. But yes, I loved watching Peyton Hillis play. I have a Madden 12 poster in my basement, representing him. So what a heroic story. I just hope that everything, God's on his side and everything plays out for that. But what a hero already, who saved both of his kids. So
yeah,
we'll keep our prayers with him.
For sure. And I happen to know he's a man of faith. I've heard him talk several times on his podcast. So he's definitely a believer. And, through his podcast and talking to him online, I mean, he just seems like such an outstanding guy. And, we're all praying for a happy ending to that story. So, well, Coltrane, buddy, our season's over. And we knew it was over. But we did have one more game to play. Unfortunately, we couldn't come out on top against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. But we are in for 8 months, buddy, of no Cleveland Browns football. And I got to tell you, I've gone through some mixed emotions. At first, I was kind of sad, that we're not going to see Browns football for 8 months. And then a little later in the week, I got to where I was like, I need a break a little bit. And we do have a lot of questions that need answered. There's a lot of holes to fill in this team. We have to make some major improvements. Letting go of Joe Woods was just one step. There's many steps to take if we want to be competitive in this league. But it's still sad when that last game is played, though, Coltrane.
Yeah, I agree. And we had talked about the show the week before. Obviously, I was hyped up. I was ranting and raving. Just, man, I would have loved to win a W, to see Deshaun play well and kick the Steelers' ass and all that. But, what's crazy, Jason, I was looking forward to saying this on the show. That last game, to me, showed me exactly what we already kind of knew. We knew there was kind of issues, like obviously Clowney news happens, before the game even happens. So you knew there was some things behind the scenes going on. We had complained about the show, the coaching, and just even Stefanski's kind of game management. It was kind of up and down. So, be honest with you, I was pissed off at first. Of course I was. I was, like any Browns fan, I was throwing shit at the TV. I hate to see us go down like that in that way. But I did look at it like, it's a situation where we knew. It's almost just like, we've been talking about the problems in this team all season, the D tackles, the linebackers missing, Barry making some questionable moves, same thing with Stefanski. And then the game happens and it's just reality. To me, it was like reality. The game ended and I was like, you know what? I don't know how we go in talking about the negative stuff that exists with this team, the culture, the leadership, all this stuff. And then you go in and you whoop the Steelers' ass. I mean, I do believe that will come next year with a good offseason and all that stuff. I don't even want to get into all that. But to me, I guess it's to quote that one coach, they are who we thought they were, or we are who I thought we were. I obviously, as a diehard fan and hating the Steelers, I wanted us to kick their ass. But like I said, again, I'm not surprised. I'm sorry as a Browns fan to say that, but the outcome to me was not a surprise, mainly because, this is just typical, man. 7-10 would have been nice to be 9-8 or 8-9, but this is the way the cookie crumbled. But Very disappointed, man. But I, like you said, I'm in the same boat. I need a break. I don't want to be depressed for the rest of my life. I feel like I've been depressed. It's been let's just be honest, Jason. It's been a rocky season for all of us, dude. Everything included, dude. So it's nice to just kind of get a break, and then we'll talk about off-season or playoff stuff to kind of get our minds off it the next couple of weeks, and then we can slowly get back into like getting hyped up again. But like I said, that game ended purely to my point of they are who I thought they were, man. You can't really avoid the problems and the issues that we've been talking about. It was it was bound to happen and end this way.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying, Coltrane. I'm sitting there, I'm watching the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions game on Sunday night, and I found myself, and I even tweeted this, I never thought in a million years that I would be jealous of the Detroit Lions. But I sat there Sunday night on my couch. Was it Sunday night or Monday night? It was Sunday night on my couch. And I found myself like, this is what I want the Cleveland Browns to look like right here. Like, they found out an hour or maybe 30 minutes before kickoff that they weren't going to make the playoffs. The Detroit Lions did. They found out they weren't going to be in the playoffs. And man, some teams would go into that game knowing that information and just probably fold up shop and start planning their vacation. But they didn't do that, man. Those players were flying around. Jared Goff was slinging it all over the yard. Their running backs, like that team was fighting, and they had an attitude about them, man. They were like, if we're not getting in, Green Bay Packers, you're not getting in. And that's what I wish the Cleveland Browns had. Even though we knew we weren't going to get in the playoffs, it's like the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they didn't get in anyways, that doesn't matter. Like, the point is, we should have went out there and been like, okay, we're not getting the playoffs, but dudes, you're not getting in either, and we're going to hit you in the mouth and tell you why you're not going to get in the playoffs. And they didn't do that, and that was missing, and it was disappointing the way they just rolled over like that.
Yeah, it's almost like Pittsburgh was playing like you thought we were going to play like. You know what I mean? Like, they were kind of taking over and dominating and getting picks and or interceptions and all that. And I don't think anyone foresaw the way Watson went out. And I hated to see that for him. Because I wanted him to have the motivation too and be excited. I know he still is. I know Stefanski is, and us Browns fans, of course, I am too. But man, it just would have been nice to put that last little F you to the Steelers, how our season was going. But like I said, it's just disappointing for Watson. But I will say this in his defense, man, and that's a topic we can talk about later on the show. The O-line, Jason, it's talk about a roller coaster of the season. Same thing. This great, glorious O-line that we've been raving about, every week after week, they played the Steelers, and let's just be real. They pushed them around. Steelers pushed us around, dude. They took over that game, and they dominated the line of scrimmage, and we did not look so hot. So, yeah, Watson, and I'm not making excuses for him, man. Fuck, we gave Baker excuses for 3 years. But I will say this about Watson. Let's be real. Half of those dropbacks, there was fucking dudes in his face, man. There was, dominant dudes in his face, whether it was Hayward or Watt, whatever. Half of those dropbacks, you just never know what could have happened if you just had a little bit more time. So, but yeah, truly disappointed, man. Disappointing Sunday. So
we got a snapshot of Deshaun Watson of what he looks like as the Cleveland Browns for 6 games. Are you confident going into the offseason with what you saw from Deshaun Watson? Do you still have a lot of questions left unanswered? Like, where are you at with Deshaun Watson right now rolling into the offseason?
I don't have any questions at all, Jason. He is who I thought he was. I talked about this show the last couple of weeks. You can't look at the problem with the $230 million contract is everyone thinks the dude was going to go in and drop 3-4 TDs a game and be the Houston Texan, that he used to be, that playmaker he was on primetime games, driving up and down the field. Dude, that was 2020. We need to be realistic as fans and as people that, and obviously the baggage of his off-field stuff carried with it, where fans or other fans just hated him for no reason and they didn't want him to do well. But for me, for the 6 games, would I have liked him to end on a high note? Yes. But like I've talked about on the show for weeks, he shows you what he can do. There's a little bit of magic. behind all the interceptions and the losses and any of that kind of stuff, he went 3-3. And to me, that's the record that you would assume a guy who hasn't played for 700 days would play. And again, this isn't an excuse. This is reality. But like I talked about on the show last week, Jason, I liked how he can get out of sacks. I love how he can do, you couldn't have done this with Baker and other QBs where they can just throw him a little QB draw, a little cute little college action, where the QB kind of makes the option play and just runs it. And he's done it. He's done it now for like 20, 30, 40 yards. The athlete is there. I will say this because this is my guy as is. I'm a little bit biased, but a full off season and some tweaks, I feel great about him. I left these 6 games. I'm not over here depressed. Oh, dude, it was 6 games. If it was 10 and he went 5-5, I'd probably be sitting here maybe in a different situation. He had 6 games. He hadn't played for that long, 3-3. I did see some razzle dazzle. I saw some freaking lasers, some 60-yard bombs to Peoples-Jones and Cooper. I think him and Cooper can be something one day. I think they really can be a great duo. Give the man some help regarding O-line and receiver in the offseason. And like I said, I think the guy's good to go, man. A full offseason, a healthy, starting in September, Jason. I'm reared and ready, man. As the months go on, 4 months in, you'll probably hear me hipping and hopping and yelling and screaming my butt off just because I'm excited to see him out there again. But obviously, I'll roll it to you to see your opinion of it. But for me, at 3-3, he played. I would say he played well for me, well enough for me to be excited for next season. I'll end it at that.
Yeah, we saw some good things from Deshaun Watson. There's no question about that. Like, we saw things that we have never seen a Browns quarterback do. He can get out of pressure situations, as you mentioned. He can scramble. He can run. What did he run for? 44 yards on Sunday, and that was a bad game. I can see Deshaun Watson where he's going to have 70 to 80 yards rushing on the ground next year. There's going to be games like that. So that's the kind of stuff he can do for you. He threw 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games. 5 touchdowns. I think that was good. Like, when you look at his stat line, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 29 attempts. Like, that part looks good. Where it gets shaky, he had a couple interceptions, that he didn't have any business throwing. Like, he made some decisions that had you scratching your head a little bit. So I think the people that are doubting him are looking at that kind of stuff and go, well, that's a $230 million quarterback. He shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. Well, yeah. Yes, you're right. A $230 million quarterback shouldn't be doing that. But as you mentioned earlier, he hasn't played in 700 days. There's some rust there. Not only that, but he's had some, like, he's got to be going through some mental issues right now. Like, he's gone through a tremendous thing this offseason, legal battles and that kind of thing. People, can you imagine the kind of messages that he's gotten on social media? And, it's probably not that good. So he's gone through some mental stuff. He's probably had to see a psychiatrist, a head doctor about that kind of stuff. So yes, I don't expect a $230 million quarterback to do that, but also I haven't seen a quarterback go through these kind of legal troubles either. Do I feel great about him? I would be lying if I said I felt great, but I do feel good. I do think that a full off season, with going through off season programs, getting together with the guys, throwing the ball around, going through mini camp. He's going to be in Cleveland all off season. He says he's not going to go anywhere. Kevin Stefanski said in the presser that they're going to spend as much time as allowed as possible together to scheme and, draw up the offense to what they want to look like. Sounds like Deshaun Watson has a lot of things that he a lot of input for what he wants the offense to look like next year, which I think is great. I do think Deshaun Watson has a great offensive mind. I do think Kevin Stefanski has a great offensive mind. So when they collaborate together for a full offseason, I think that will pay dividends next year. So I am encouraged. I don't feel great, but it was only 6 games. You can't expect a miracle. I think we had high expectations for Deshaun Watson for these last 6 games. You know, us as fans were like, we were expecting him to go 5-1, or some were even saying 6-0. And if you look back at it, that was just probably unrealistic, right? I mean, that's unrealistic to ask anybody to come in after what he's been through to produce those kind of results.
Yeah, and it's not even what he's been through, Jason. It's just we did exactly what I didn't want to do. We had it. What were we at the time? Like 6-7. We weren't even 500, right? I mean, you can't expect someone to.
We were lower than that. Dude.
Was it? Was it even?
I mean,
I would love to know.
Yeah, I mean, he went 3-3. Well, we were 4-7, I think.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, you can't expect a dude like you said to go 6-0, and that's another thing where I told you the Browns fans, you know, even myself, I thought 4-2, so I was a game off. But even myself, as a huge Watson guy, gave us 2 losses. I mean, I knew coming in as a realist fan, not like I said, a guy. Don't get so strung up on the money, guys. But as a realist fan, that you know the guy was gonna take some lumps, dude. He wasn't gonna go in and just whoop the Ravens' butt or a good defense or whoop the Bengals' butt. I mean. It is what it is. I'm with you. Give him an off season. Give him some work with Stefanski. But like I said, 6 games. Anybody that's like nervous or saying he sucks, you just don't know football. You don't understand football. Give the guy at least a season and see where our record is, and we'll go from there. And that's all I'll really kind of end on that.
Yeah, and even going into next year, I don't expect him to just come out firing next year. I mean, it's going to take him a couple games, I think. Yeah, I could be wrong. I mean, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully he does come out of the gates.
Depending on what Barry gives him, if Barry gives him like a Cooks, or I do feel like that's coming. If Barry gives him like a Cooks type player, a guy he's played with before, even a lineman he's played with before. You'd be surprised, Jason. I mean, look at how well Jamar Chase, Burrow, like a lot of these, when for other teams at least, not the Browns, but hopefully the Browns, when you bring back these players they used to play with, it really helps that quarterback out. So honestly, to me, to answer that comment, Jason, it all depends on what AB gives him. If he gives him some badass help in the offseason, then yeah, dude, my expectations are going to be a lot higher than a 500 season or a couple wins over 500, man. So for sure, it all depends on AB.
Did you think that it was interesting that it seemed like he was passing to Nick Chubb a lot more? Maybe that's because we know that Kareem Hunt's not going to be on this team next year, so they're thinking, well, hey, let's see what Nick Chubb can do. But he caught 5 passes, man, for 45 yards. He even scored a touchdown in the air. Like Nick Chubb's only touchdown wasn't on the ground; it was in the air. What'd you think about Nick Chubb? Because I don't think of him as a pass catching running back. I mean, he can catch, but it seemed like his numbers were inflated than what we usually see.
Well, I just think every quarterback's different. I think that's kind of Watson. You just talked about it earlier, how Watson kind of has stuff to do with the offense. He'll talk to Stefanski and game plan. I know for a fact, we know from interviews and stuff, Stefanski is not just like, this is my offense. He gets feedback from, what do they always praise? Collective, agreements and a collective play calling, and everybody's on the same page. So I wouldn't be surprised if Watson brought Chubb in or wanted to get Chubb more involved. But for me, I think it's just interesting how quarterbacks are. I mean, look at Jacoby. He kind of, hung on Cooper a lot, obviously. Sometimes Hunt a little bit. Not necessarily so much Chubb, but then you got Watson, in the 6 games that I saw, he really likes Peoples-Jones, which Brissett hit Peoples, but not that much, not as often as Watson. He's obviously likes to throw to his tight ends, and then obviously from the Chubb stuff, it looks like he likes to throw to his running backs too. So like I said, give that dude another weapon, especially like a top receiver or even like a mid receiver to add to our arsenal. Like I said, I think it's going to be fun, man. We haven't seen, I guess I'll leave it with that. We haven't seen the full, I don't think any of us have seen the full capabilities of Watson yet. So it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. Jeff says he thinks Watson had great chemistry with Cooper and Njoku, and he did, man. I mean, Cooper had some big games this year. He caught 9 touchdowns this year. or was it 10? I think it was 9. He has had 9 touchdowns this year. That's the most in his entire career. And he did that with the Cleveland Browns with Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson. Jacoby Brissett, nothing against him, but he's a backup quarterback. Maybe he's proved something. Maybe he'll get a shot next year. Who knows? And then Deshaun Watson, who's coming off 700 days of not throwing a pass. And here we are, Amari Cooper catches for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. And then Njoku, we've seen him kind of blossom a little bit with both Brissett and Watson. I mean, that touchdown, even though the announcer – what'd you think about the announcing on Sunday, dude? I mean, that was piss poor, awful. Like, they didn't even want to say touchdown when Njoku scored. It seemed like they were rooting against us on Sunday, but –
yeah, I agree. I'm not really a huge fan of Clark Gumble like pressers anyways or Gamecast, just because I just think of March Madness. Like every time I see that dude, I just think of March Madness in college basketball because I love watching the tourney every year. But I've never been a fan of his commentary. But I'm with you, man, and I agree. And I have noticed just little things, dude, but especially pertaining to Watson, that the NFL or the announcers will do, where the Browns are just kind of always not really in the picture or not really in the conversation as a positive, dude. Like, even when we're up, it seems like they're trying to give the other team a chance to come back and you never know. Whereas, other teams like a Buffalo Bill or something, like, they'd be talking out the games in the bag. So just more Browns, we're Browns fans, so we suffer like that. But let's mention, Jason, how about that face mask that the ref was right there? I know it's been getting a lot of action on Twitter, but man, it's tough being a Browns fan. Or that one, or that ghost PI call, on us with Emerson and the Steelers. I mean, what are you, that set up a score, man, so it's like, this kind of stuff, Jason, is like, I guess to answer, I'll throw a question at you tonight, Jason. Do they hate us? Like, do they really hate us that much that it's like biased against the Browns? Or is this just really bad luck over and over and over in these NFL games? What's your spin on it, man? What do you think?
I mean, it sure does seem like it, right? It seems like we get a lot of bad calls. And I mean, Deshaun Watson got tackled by his face mask, man. And you can't tell me a ref didn't see that. And there was no flag, no flag. It should have been a 15-yard penalty, no doubt about it. It seems like that. I would find it hard to believe that exists, but it does seem like that. Maybe a lot of other fan bases think the same thing. We've seen bad calls in a lot of different games. I guess we just have to get to the point where we take the refs out of it. But man, it sure is hard, dude. When it's a call like that, or they don't get a call right, it's not fun to see, especially like when the game's on the line and the refs put it in their hands.
Yeah, well, see. And what bothers me about it is, and that's why, like, I'm not typically a blame the refs guy, but those two plays, the ghost PI set up, that brought them to the 10. Kenny Pickett's not that good. I'm sorry, I don't see it. I still don't see it, even after losing to him. But anyways, that brought them into 10. They scored off that. I know they scored 6 off of that, so they scored 7 points, and then we were about on the 45, 50, and Watson, he's a throw away from, getting back to the 30, maybe kicking a field goal or at least scoring. So that no call on the pass, or the roughing the passer, or the face mask call, it really killed that drive to where maybe we score. I mean, you're talking about 2 huge momentum changes.
Huge plays.
And that's just where it's like, I'm not one of these people who like blame the refs guy or NFL is paying the refs to like F us over. No, I'm not into all that. I'm just saying I'm sad to hear those 2 call, or the one no call and the one call, actually set up points or no points for each team. And that's where I think it's like you said, yes, we need to take care of business, but man, those momentum killers, dude, just affects everything, man. It's just like, man, it's such a, like I said, that ghost PI, I think I almost threw a brick at my TV because I was I have bricks,
TV. Don't do that.
ready to go. Yeah, I have bricks ready to go for shitty calls like that, Jason. But that was the call. I was just like, I was watching with a Steelers fan. My buddy Big Mike was at my house. There's a Steelers fan that was like, "Hey, where's the PI? I don't see it." So just show you, man. Sucks, bro. Sometimes being a Browns fan, especially during games and those crazy momentum shifts and outcomes of that, type of no call or call, man, it just, like I said, it stinks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
This division, the AFC North, honestly, man, I thought Pittsburgh would be down for a minute. And even in the season where you thought they were going to be down, they finished third in the division. But when you look at the AFC North, the Bengals finished 12-4. The Ravens 10-7. The Steelers, who we thought they were going to be just crap this year, finished 9-8. Tomlin still hasn't had a losing record in his whole tenure with the Steelers. And then we finished at the bottom with 7-10. But when you look at it, man, everybody in our division within the divisional games are 3-3. Everybody's split. So this division, I think, moving forward, because the Bengals aren't going anywhere. The Ravens are just a well-run organization. They're not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter about Lamar Jackson. If they sign him, they don't sign him. I think they're still going to be fine. The Steelers are just like the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they're not going to be down long. And then Cleveland, we're homers here, but you have to think that they're going to be going up. I mean, as much as we're screaming and yelling about the season, we won 7 games. Hopefully that's our floor. Like, our floor has been way low. I remember a lot of 4-win seasons, man, 3-win seasons. Yeah. We were 1-15, 0-16. Like, we've had some bad seasons. This season was bad, and we won 7 games. So as you look at the AFC North, you have to think that this is going to be one of the tougher divisions in the league. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And no more to say about that. All right, let's move on. I'm just kidding. But let's get into the presser. Man, gosh, we're running out of time. The Browns presser was Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. You had said pre-show you watched it. I was watching it as I was typing up the show notes. What did you come away feeling from the Browns presser that happened yesterday?
Well, these pressers are hard, man, because I feel like they don't reveal their hand. They don't tell you. You watch the presser expecting to get legit information or leave, from something. But I guess if I had any questions about the Stefanski and what the front office thinks of him, I left going back to what my wife told me, even in the offseason. I'll give props to Sarah Cold Iron tonight because she said this originally. I left that presser, understanding that, at least from what Barry revealed his hand and the small things he revealed to me, was he loves Stefanski. He's a huge fan of Stefanski. He rides or dies with Stefanski. He thinks he's a great coach, and that's great. But this season, to me, and the way he was answering questions about Watson, how excited he is, I looked at it like what my wife told me in the first place. She was like, "Don't get too excited about this season." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Because they were planning for next season. They were planning for next year." And to me, I left this presser after hearing, the few things that they said. It was clear to me that I think Barry was even talking about holes that, that they should have reevaluated or evaluated. They definitely played off. I'm not saying they were planning on having a losing season or anything like that. The goal was the playoffs regardless, even with Jacoby back there. But I think their overall plan and their overall push for success was for 2023 season, not this season. And that to me was evident after everything they said, especially how they were talking about Watson and how excited they still are, blah, blah, blah. I don't think those 6 games really meant nothing. They weren't expecting much, and they're going to be building, especially the front office. They will be building for this coming season. They're going to move some contracts around, and they'll be building big time for this coming season. That's what I left.
Yeah, sometimes it's just hard to get a gauge on pressers. Their press conferences, a lot of these answers are rehearsed. They have a good understanding of the questions they're going to get, and I'm sure that they collaborate before and say, "Hey, let's answer this way and that." But I did come away from that press conference at least feeling like Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are on the same page. If they're not on the same page, they did a really good job of fooling me because I'm a pretty good reader at people, body language and that sort of thing. And I came away with, just like you just said, I think they both admire each other, they respect each other, and they like working together. And I think they're rowing in the same direction. They did admit that there's a lot of holes that need to be filled. There's a lot of questions to be answered. You had alluded to this. Andrew Berry didn't seem concerned at all about salary cap, because right now we don't have much, but he feels he didn't seem concerned about it. He feels like we'll be able to play in free agency and get the players that we're going to want. And he didn't seem concerned about that at all. So I thought that was good. I also thought it was good. We don't know who our defensive coordinator is going to be yet. I think they're starting the interview process now. There's some names out there. Brian Flores, I think, is at the top of the list for most Browns fans. I think a lot of fans would like to see him as our defensive coordinator. But one of the things they said was when we do hire our defensive coordinator, we're going to sit down with that individual, that new coach, and figure out what kind of personnel he needs for the scheme that he's going to run. And then they're going to take it from there. So I expect that the Browns are going to be heavily in the free agency process. They're going to be signing a lot of defensive players in free agency this year. I don't see a lot of players on the offensive side of the ball. We were talking about this in our Network 216 chat. We might trade for a wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is out there, maybe someone like that. I think that would be a good trade if we can get him for the right kind of money, especially his relationship with Deshaun Watson. But in free agency, I think we're going to be heavily on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm excited about whoever this new defensive coordinator is going to be. I'm sure the next show we're going to be talking about that even more. If it's not, it might be decided by next show. I mean, 7 days old training. That's a long time. Now there's got a lot of interviews that have to be made. I think they're going to be careful on who they select because, quite frankly, I'm a huge Kevin Stefanski supporter. I think he's a good coach. I want him to be here for the next 10 to 15 years. That's what I think about Kevin Stefanski. But I'm not so naive to think that this is an important year for him. Like, if they get this wrong, if they come out and just lay an egg this year, Stefanski's gone. And I realize that. I think they realize that too. So this hire for defensive coordinator is probably the most important hire of their life.
Yeah. I mean, they have to get it right, man. They have to take their time. And I think, to answer your question, will it get done by this show? It all depends on the flights and the interviews and all that. Sometimes they interview like a guy a day. And as far as last time I looked, there was about 4 or 5 names on that list. So it all depends. Then sometimes, I think all of them, I was going to say they usually are playing with their playoff team, but I think all of them they're out of the playoffs. So that'll make it more convenient for us. But me, myself, man, I'm huge on Flores. I like Mayo, and Schwartz is also a name that I like as well. But I think Flores is the guy. I know he's the fan favorite as is. And I think when it's all said and done, it will be a big name. And I even talked about that on the show a couple weeks ago. That's where we've always lacked. Even when Woods was hired when we were, 3 years ago, when we were fans and we were like, I remember seeing the update on my phone. I was at work and I was like, Joe Woods, who the hell is that? And at the end of the day, unfortunately for my, what I said that day followed me, for the next 3 seasons. And he ended up being, a mediocre, kind of what his record was. I mean, I know he was with Arizona at one point. He was a mediocre coach. I never really heard of him. So I will leave it with this. I think they do go big name. And if it's Flores, man, dude, it was, I was telling my wife the other day, it's a match made in heaven. The guy's just been really chilling with the Steelers. I mean, linebacker coach. We all know Tomlin, stayed him out of a bad situation, got him a job, but basically he's just waiting in the wings for a job, bro. He wants to get his hands dirty and really run a defense. So a guy, trust me, if we don't pick him up, he will be picked up very soon. And that's why I was telling you earlier on the pre-show, whatever they do, it'll be within the week or two, just because, especially if you're talking to Flores, Mayo, Schwartz, all those types of names, they're going to go fast, dude. And it's not the end of it was just Black Monday. It's not the end of the firings, man. There's going to be more coordinators getting fired along the way. and we got to make a move. If Flores is the guy, you don't let him leave the city. You give him your filet mignon steak like you gave Mangini, and you say, "Hey, buddy, welcome to Cleveland. We want you here." And like I said, I'll end it with this: we need a guy that has that attitude and can get these guys going. And I've seen highlights of Flores. I've seen him mic'd up. He is that guy that can get what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability. He mentioned that many times in a lot of his pressers and stuff. That's what we need here. So for me, just up the accountability and how he says he holds his players accountable, that's what I felt we lacked this season. He even mentioned as well that some of the players kind of get upset with him at first because he has that tough love type of coach, but then they improve and they get better and then they appreciate him more, and that's why he's a well-respected coach. So again, I'll leave with this: Flores is at the top of my list. Jeff knows that. Me and him talk about Flores a lot. I would love to see him with the Browns. I want a big name. Regardless, I need a big name as a D coordinator to get me excited for next season, man.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's got to be a big name. It can't be some hotshot coach in college that comes up and is a defensive coordinator. This guy has to be a leader of men. This isn't college. This is the NFL. We're talking about millionaire athletes here, and we have a defense that honestly needs leadership. They really do. They need leadership. They need accountability. You'd mentioned Andrew Berry used that word a lot in the presser yesterday. So I think it has to be a guy like, Brian Flores or Jim Schwartz. I've heard who's the guy for Wisconsin, Jim Leonard. I don't think it's going to be someone like that. I mean, he might be a great coordinator. I just don't think that that's what Cleveland needs right now. Mike Zimmer, I've heard. We need a veteran, man. We need a veteran guy. Someone who's been a head coach. Wasn't Jim Schwartz wasn't he from the Belichick tree? Wasn't he I think he was with the Browns when Belichick was coaching here.
I think so. In
the early 90s. I think that have you ever seen that documentary, the 95 Browns?
Yes. I have.
He was a slappy, I think is what they called him.
Okay.
Him and Mangini. I think it was Jeff Schwartz. So, he's, if I'm right, he started his career here in Cleveland. He got fired from Philly 5 years ago. I think Andrew Berry was there at that time. So I don't know what kind of relationship they have. I guess if he's going to be interviewing him, it must not be all that bad, if Andrew Berry's going to bring him in for an interview. So we'll see. I would be good with Flores. I'd be good with Jim Schwartz. Gerard Mayo, I don't know enough about him. I mean, he's a linebackers coach for the Patriots. So I guess that's good. We need a good linebacker coach, but we need a leader of men, man. Someone to come in here and take control of this defense and take it to where we want to go. Because we got pushed all around this year. If we just had a top 15 defense, I think we would be in the playoffs. I mean, we came 2 wins short. 2 wins. That's it. You could take the Jets game that if that scenario would have happened 100 times.
The Falcons game.
I mean, we were close, even though I think that if we would have made the playoffs, we would have been out the first round anyways, just like a couple of these teams we're going to talk about here at the end of the show. But the goal is to get to the playoffs, right? I mean, I was sitting here thinking last night, 43%, almost 44% of the league makes the playoffs in the NFL. 43% of the league makes the playoffs, and we've done it twice in the 2000s. That's just ridiculous. I don't think you can try to do that. I mean, we actually did it. I don't think you could try and accomplish that. I mean, it's incredible. We haven't even hosted a home playoff game at First Energy Stadium. That's ridiculous to me. So these guys better get it right. I like Stefanski. I want him to be our coach for a long time, but this is the year, man. If they start off 2-6 or something like that, he could be gone after 8 games coming into this year. So they got to get it right, and they got to do well this year.
And see, it's funny you said that. I was actually going to make that comment, Jason. I think they go for a Flores or a Schwartz because they actually have head coaching experience. And I'm not saying it'll happen, and they're not going to tell Stefanski that. But at the end of the day, you got a guy who can also lead a whole team as well in the wings. So it's like, you never know. You could see Stefanski go and Flores get promoted. I mean, there's a lot of advantages when you hire a former head coach or a guy that you know has done it before. And Flores, especially versus Schwartz, he's had success with Miami. So definitely something to think about. It's like that double, almost you get a 2-for-1. You get a great D coordinator that's going to take care of things on the defensive side, but also a guy who can come in if he needs be. Stefanski gets COVID again or something. He's on his couch, and you need somebody to step in and coach the team, not Mike Poofer.
Mike Poofer. And we'll see what happens with Mike Poofer as well. He said he hadn't talked to him yet. I think he's good as gone. I mean, if you're going to keep the guy, wouldn't you say that in the presser? And wouldn't you have talked to him by then?
See, I hope so, Jason. That has me a little bit like I guess I didn't understand why they immediately fired Woods. So obviously they were talking about him for a few weeks, but I don't understand. I guess you're right. Maybe at least a couple more days, but I'm on the other. I had to be played devil's advocate. I'm concerned and nervous that he won't get fired just because we haven't. Like, I would have thought that he would. Like, what's the wait for? If you knew you're to me, Pfeiffer is right there as far as just shitty team overall. Too many penalties. There's so many. I mean, we had like one punt return from Peoples-Jones, and that was all Peoples-Jones in like 3 years. Cade York looks like he's declining. I mean, there's so many things that are on the table as us fans see. So Jason, I hope you're right and I'm wrong, because I looked at it as, because they haven't announced it yet, Stefanski's just going to be sticking with who he's got, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Jason. You might know. My question to you tonight is, here's what's confusing too. They were talking about in the presser about the defensive staff and all of that. But let me ask you this. If they hire let's just say they hire Flores, wouldn't he bring his own people in? He wouldn't keep any, or is that Stefanski's call? Like, that's where I was confused. If Flores comes in, why would he keep like the D-line coach that Joe Woods hired, right? Like,
well,
do you know much about that?
He probably wouldn't. I mean, let's say they hire Brian Flores. I mean, Brian Flores is going to bring in his own guys
what I thought.
To coach his position groups in the defense. But maybe, maybe that's something that they're going to talk about. Hey, maybe he'll keep a guy or two on staff still. Maybe, who knows? But maybe they just want to have options for him. But usually a defensive coordinator is going to bring in all of his own guys.
Yeah, and I hope they do, just because I was telling Sarah, it's like, yeah, you fired Woods. He's the head of it. But to me, all his cronies did just as bad, because it's all the position groups, and they all did. To me, I mean, there wasn't like there was one position group you were like, that position group didn't do too bad. I mean, fire them all, get rid of them. Like, I don't know why they'd still be hanging around. But like you said, technically it's –
I mean, I couldn't even honestly tell you who our linebackers coach is.
No, and I know that D-line coach ain't that good either. I mean, they didn't do that well. Clowney stunk. But,
even Jeff chimed in and said they probably didn't want to fire anyone in case Flores wants to keep anyone on the staff. So I guess you can always hire somebody. It's going to be hard to bring him back.
Yeah, I highly doubt he keeps anybody on his staff. But, man, I hope you're right, Jason, and back to Poofer, because – I really hope they didn't just like they did the linebackers and the D tackles this season. I hope they're not going to let this guy survive another year. It's been mediocre special teams for 3 seasons. What else do we need to see? It's horrible penalties. So I really do hope that's the next guy to get the axe if that's what they end up doing this week. So.
All right. Well, we got about 8 minutes. We're going to move into our picks for the playoffs. Now, I want to tell the audience, and by the way, thanks for tuning in to the Yard Dawgs Podcast. You're watching us on YouTube, on our Network 216 YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're close to 900 now. I think we're around 850 subscribers. So if you see that subscribe button, go ahead and click it. If you're joining us from Facebook, thanks for tuning in. Twitter, obviously we love all of our Twitter peeps, so thanks for tuning in. We're into our picks, and during the playoffs, the Yard Dawgs podcast, if there's some Browns news, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about a lot of playoff football and then, of course, the Super Bowl, and then we'll move in. There's plenty of time to talk about the offseason. I think we have 35 weeks of podcasting before the Browns kick off again. So there's plenty of time to talk about all the offseason news that's coming out. But Coltrane, you picked up on this last week, bro. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Mikey P, and we got to get into our picks, but we had a year-long bet. It was picks against the AFC North, and there's a point system involved. The low man on the totem pole has to do the one-chip hot challenge or pick the wheel of destiny for the top punishment that's chosen by the audience, and we have a lot. And there's some really bad punishments, but Mikey P threw on there. I think it was live on the air. Hey, we should go ahead and continue it through the playoffs. And he kind of snuck it in there on us, man. You picked up on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I picked up on it, man. I remember now. I remember vaguely you said at the beginning of the year, you always said the Brown season. We never mentioned anything about NFL. And hey, by the way, Mikey was even – you know what? Let's just bring this up. He was even talking about money lines, Jason. He was acting as if we should pick the winner and the line. And I think maybe he's not telling us that. Maybe he's a good gambler or something at home on his
Mr. Top Boss, Mr. Vegas guy there, huh?
You know, like this guy was talking about money lines, dude. I think he's trying to take advantage of us, man. I think so.
I feel very taken advantage of. I'm just going to throw that out there. We're going to go along with it. We're going to continue the contest through the playoffs and the Super Bowl. The standings right now, Mikey P's in third place at 27 points. You're at 28 points, so you have a 1-point lead, and I'm at 31 points. So this is a very tight race. Anybody can catch anybody. But let's go ahead and pick this weekend's predictions for Wild Card Weekend. We have Mikey's picks here, even though he's not with us. We have them written down. Seahawks at 49ers. Now, the Seahawks are favored in this one by 10, Cold Train. We're going to start with you. Who do you like in this game, and what's the score?
I like the Niners in this one, 28-17. I don't know if you've ever seen their walkout with that boombox where they put usually a hip-hop song on. They all get pumped up. That's pretty badass, man. I don't think that entrance gets enough love. Like, I know we got our dog pound to come out in the fence, and that's cool, but that's pretty freaking cool, man. When they throw that song on, you got the one dude, boombox guy, like the old school, and then they all just coming up, getting pumped up. So, with that said, if you walk out of the game like that, you can't lose. Niners win that one for sure.
You know what else is cool about the 49ers is they're on their third quarterback of the season, man. Their third quarterback. And
he's good.
And he's the last quarterback picked in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, and they're just rolling right along. Kyle Shanahan has them a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine there. So I also have the 49ers win this one 34-23. And Mikey P, just in case you're wondering, has the 49ers 24-20. So we all have the 49ers winning this one. I am the only one who has them covering, though. So if any gamblers out there and you want to follow my lead, I wouldn't. I wouldn't follow my lead on that one. But all right, let's move on to the next game. Chargers at Jaguars. Now the Chargers are favored in this one. Vegas has this close. They're only favored by 1. It's in Jacksonville. Who do you got? This is me starting this one. I have the Chargers winning. This is a close one, 27-24. I was concerned with the Chargers last week. You know, they played their starters well into the third quarter. I was concerned, man. And even Mike Williams got hurt. I hope he's going to be okay. But that was an interesting decision by the head coach, I think, because they have the 5th seed locked in. There's no reason for their starters to play, but they did. And one of their players got hurt. But I do think they bounced back. Jaguars have been playing well this year. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been tremendous. That team, Doug Peterson has that team moving in the right direction finally because they do have a lot of talent. But I think the Chargers are going to edge them out. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers 24-14. I think it'll be a little bit more offense for the Chargers. But I wasn't too impressed with the score, really. Like, obviously, I was following close to to Trevor Lawrence's numbers he was on my fantasy team, but I wasn't too impressed with just how they finished that game. I mean, I think it could have gone either way at some points. So, yeah, definitely Chargers roll them 24-14. Trevor Lawrence is not ready for the big stage yet.
No, but I fear one day he will be. That guy,
yeah,
he's something special, man. And it's hard to believe he's only in his second year when you think of Trevor Lawrence, because we've seen him, in college, and I don't know. I thought this was his third year, but it's only his second year in the league. So he's got some big things ahead of him for sure. Mikey P also has the Chargers win this one 30-17. All right. Dolphins at Bills. Now the Dolphins just kind of crawled into the playoffs, didn't they? I mean, they damn near didn't make it. They limped in the playoffs, I should say. But the Dolphins are in the playoffs. They're at Buffalo. Now, Buffalo is favored kind of like the 49ers. They've got a 10.5 point lead here, for the over-under, not the over-under, but the spread. Who do you got in this one? Dolphins at Bills.
I got the Bills, man. I would never bet against a team that just had that Hamlin situation happen. Josh Allen's on fire. So I got the Bills 34, Dolphins 17.
34-17?
Yep.
And I also have the Bills 38-27, and Mikey P has the Bills 38-21. So we all have the Bills there, no surprise. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm actually rooting for the Bills to win the Super Bowl this year. It's just a story that has to finish that way, and I think it will. I mean, Naheem Hines, did he run back 2 kickoffs for touchdowns? I mean, it was the first play of the game, and he runs a kickoff return touchdown. I think he had another one, dude. That's amazing.
He might have. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Amazing,
yeah.
Bills have been playing lights out, man.
Yeah. All right, you're starting this next one. Giants at Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3. Who do you got in this one?
I love the Giants. I love what they're doing. My fandom says I want the Giants, but I will go with I don't want to be eating no hot chip or wheeling this wheel of destiny. So I'll go Vikings 28, Giants 14.
28-14. We're kind of close. I have the Vikings also winning this 21-17. Although I don't feel good. This is the first game that I don't feel good about. I can easily see the Giants winning this one. They're rolling pretty good. Saquon Barkley's had a great year. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, he's had all right year. But I do think the Vikings will come out on top. And let's see who Mikey P has. He has the Vikings also winning 33-17. So he doesn't even think this is going to be close. 33-17 Vikings. Ravens at Bengals. Bengals are favored by 6.5. I will start this one. I don't know who the Ravens quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Lamar Jackson? I don't know. I don't think it's come out yet. That's a big deal to me, because without Lamar Jackson, even if they have Lamar Jackson, I would probably still pick the Bengals. But I think Lamar Jackson is going to be a little closer. But I do think the Bengals win this one. This will be their third time facing each other this year, 2 times in 2 weeks. It's kind of like when last time we made the playoffs, we played the Steelers week 17 and then faced them in the wild card weekend the very next weekend. Well, they're doing the same thing, buddy. It's at Bengals. I'm going to pick the Bengals 24-21. Coltrane?
Oh, so you think it's close?
I do.
I have the Bengals 24-10. After Raekwon Smith's contract, I don't think Lamar plays, man. I think he's pissed about that. I mean, what are the Ravens doing? But anyways, even if Lamar plays, like I even told my wife and my friends, bro, you don't mess with the knee injury, dude. He's not going to be the same Lamar. So that's why I have it as a low score, 24-10. Because even if Lamar's back there, I don't think he's going to be, just going guns ablaze and running all over the field. I highly freaking doubt it, man. So Bengals roll the Ravens. And, with that Raekwon Smith, you really wonder what they're doing in Baltimore, man. That can be a whole show, in this long offseason we have. But, man, what are the Ravens doing over there? We shall see.
What was that, $100 million for 5 years?
Yeah, $54 million guaranteed, I think, something like that. So,
55?
Yep,
yeah.
He got paid, man.
It's incredible, man. When they signed him, They signed him this season, right? Wasn't it? Or did they trade him? They traded for him.
Yeah, they traded for him this season. But they just re-signed him now. Yep.
Yeah. When they did that, I was like, you MFers.
Yeah.
He's a great player. Don't get me wrong.
I wanted him. Of course.
Yeah.
Browns fans, we wanted him, man. We wanted a big name linebacker. Dude never came. But obviously the Ravens are smarter than us.
Yeah, we had a question about free agency for linebackers. We're going to get into all that. You know, it's hard for me to spend time on that kind of stuff because players get signed. I mean, Roquan Smith was a free agent, going to be a free agent this year. Well, the Ravens just signed him. So for me to put in a lot of energy on who we're going to sign as free agents, it's hard to do that because you don't know, man. These clubs can sign them and then they're off. All of a sudden, they're not a free agent anymore. So it's best just to wait a little while.
Oh, yeah.
All right, last game, Cowboys at Bucks. This is a tough one, man. The Cowboys, especially after what you just saw from the Cowboys, they really struggled last week against the Commanders. But the Cowboys are favored by 2.5. It's in Tampa Bay. Mikey P, we'll start with him. He has this game, the Bucks winning 20-17, so he thinks it's going to be pretty close. But he has the Buccaneers winning this one. 20-17, but this is a coin toss to me. What do you think, Coltrane?
Yeah, I want to go with Mikey too. I'm going with the Buccaneers 21-14. I won't bet against Tom Brady. And then if you know their record against them, I believe they're 0-7 against Tom. So I just don't see the Cowboys. Cowboys are usually always a first round exit anyways, but yeah, I wouldn't bet the bank on the Cowboys this weekend at all. I feel like Tom Brady at least can get past this first round. And see where he ends up after that.
This is a chance for me to we've agreed on every game. All three of us. This is a chance for me to steal a point or go down a point. Do I want to take that chance? Because the Cowboys, right, they have a lot of talent on that team, but the Bucs also have a tremendous defense. And then it is hard to bet against Tom Brady, but he's like 65 years old, isn't he?
Yeah, and I will say this. The picks are in now, Jason. Don't be trying to make us pull a fast one here, dude. You said your picks. I said my. Hey,
I didn't say my pick yet.
We're in. Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead.
Or did I? Did I say my pick?
No, you didn't say your pick. I guess
okay.
I'll give you that. All right.
No, I'll go with the Bucks 24-17. That's what I written down. I'll go with the Bucks, but I did want to just pick the Cowboys because I think I could steal a point there. But
you got wait a minute, dude. You got the points to give. Me and Mikey don't. We're wondering what are you doing playing?
You should have let me do it if you didn't.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying you have the points to give, bro. I don't have a point to give. I got to stick with the favorites, like as it looks, as Mikey, our friend, as well did. So yeah, we live on to fight another week, Mikey. You know, at the end of the day, it's going to be the same result this week, baby. No changing your picks either.
no changing your picks. Yeah, it's in there now. We do know this, if you get the reason why we're picking scores, if you get the exact score, that's 3 points. You guys are going to want to tune in for this because this is going to be the loser, which Mikey's in third place now. He either has to do the hot chip challenge or do the wheel of destiny. I have it in my garage. We're going to actually spin a wheel, and the top punishment that it lands on, he has to do it. Probably live on the show, depending on what the challenge is. It could be something that you can't do on a show, but I'm not. Yeah, we're not going to go there. but you're going to want to tune in for that for sure. It'll be right after the Super Bowl. I guess we carry it through the Super Bowl. Is that what we're doing?
Dude, ask Mikey.
He's making the rules. I don't know.
Ask Mikey what he wants to do. I guess it is the Super Bowl.
We'll carry it right. He'll probably pick the Pro Bowl next. He'll say, well, maybe we should pick the Pro Bowl. All right.
Hey, he'll go XFL. He'll be going XFL matchup.
Yeah. Hey, the XFL's about to start. Let's carry it into that. Johnny Manziel, I think he's going to be playing. You know, this Johnny Football. We have to land this plane, Coltrane. Just so you guys know, Barking Browns will be on tomorrow night. Usually they follow this show, but they'll be on tomorrow night. So be sure to catch them. We have 3 shows. The Petty Eddie podcast is going on at 7. Let's see. Barking Browns is on tomorrow as well. So we have 3 shows going on tomorrow on the Network 216 Network 216. So be sure to tune in tomorrow. With that, do you have any final thoughts on this show or the Brown season, Coltrane?
Like I said, I just, at the end of the day, my final thoughts is, back to what my wife said. I do think, fear not, Browns fans. I do believe that AB and Stefanski are going to put not that they didn't before, they are going to put all of their efforts into this season. And we're really going to see what the Browns team can be with Watson at the helm, a full season. And getting fourth place ain't a bad thing. We get a cake schedule next year, dude. I think you even have a note here, only 5 teams out of 17 made the playoffs. I'll take that schedule all day. But like I said, Browns fans, fear not. It should be a great offseason. Barry knows what he's doing. I have not gotten up the Barry bus yet. Let's ride this out. Even Stefanski, I've had my issues with him. I'll give him one more solid year. But Browns fans, fear not. I do believe there are brighter days ahead of us into next season, guys. I do believe that.
I do too. Yeah, and you'd mentioned the schedule. We have 9 home games, Coltrane. So, for you season ticket holders, you're going to be watching them 9 times at home. And you're right. I mean, the schedule, we have the Titans, 49ers, Jets, Jaguars, Bears, Cardinals, and then Steelers, Bengals, Ravens at home. And then away, you have the Seahawks, which that's going to be tough, going all the way to Seattle. It's a loud environment. You're dealing with the 12th man. That team's in the playoffs this year. That's going to be tough. You travel to the Rams. Who knows what they're going to look like? The Colts, I mean, they're in a mess, but hey, one off season can fix some things there. We play the Texans, the Broncos. So when you look at the schedule, and we're going to get into more of this during the off season, it does look good. I mean, I see at least 10 wins, like without even analyzing anything. I mean, I see 10 wins on there. So, but we have to have a good off season, and I agree with you, Coltrane. I believe in Andrew Berry. I think that they're smart guys. They understand that their futures are on the line as well if they want to stay with the Cleveland Browns, and I think they do. Yeah. So it starts with the defensive coordinator. Maybe we'll know who that's going to be by next show, Coltrane, and we'll be talking about that.
Yep, I hope so, man. Like I said, do it fast. You know what I mean? Don't hesitate. If you got your guy and you know your guy and he's a connection, get him now, because other teams will be clamoring for him real soon.
Yeah. Well, this has been the 112th episode of the Yard Dawgs Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. I like to end all of our shows with the Go Browns. So, Coltrane, if you'll join me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go Browns. Go Browns.